Welcome, everybody. We are here with Sarah Parsons today, who is going to enlighten us on some amazing things that she's doing. Has had an amazingly successful career working with major brands like Nike and Adidas and stuff, and now branching out into some other stuff. What initially got you to want to work with Nike and those guys?
Yeah, I think finishing my undergrad, had a degree in organizational communication, which was really the blend of business and communications. And living in Portland, Oregon at the time, Portland really is the sporting goods industry mecca. My first job out of college was with Mervyn's, if you remember them as an old
I do remember them.
retailer, very similar to Kohl's these days.
Yes.
I had an internship with the Portland Trailblazers my senior year.
Sweet.
It was amazing. Yeah. And as an intern, you sit in a cubicle the entire time. And I was like, well, screw that. I want to move around. Now, ending up in stores, retail learned so much. I firmly believe anyone on the corporate side of retail should have spent time in stores at some point in their career. You just gain such a different understanding for the customer, like real life on the ground challenges, something that'll be a line on a piece of paper, literally. Favorite story. Managed the home department at Mervyn's, and we would get planograms. So here's how the floor should be set. One time we got one that showed drawings of boxes, boxed candles or something, very fixed width on shelves. The shelf height, the box was taller than the shelf height. Which you can see somebody sitting in a cubicle, whatever, it works, or they meant to do it and just forgot to come back to it. Easy to happen, but that meant we had to entirely rework an entire floor plan to make that work with everything else on our own without that direction. So that was one. Shifting into corporate career, I lasted in stores about 18 months before I was like, nope, corporate side is definitely my wheelhouse. And as the intern, you don't think most of my day after that, you're in meetings, you're moving around, you're back and forth, you're interacting with people, and you wish that you had some of that time with a computer to get the work done. But really just grounding in what is the people experience side of it. And throughout the course of my career in different roles in operations, strategy, really crossing people, process, tools, and technology. I am an expert in the technical side of it, have the program management certificate, the MBA, all the acronyms.
Checked all the stuff.
Check the boxes because, why not? That's fun. But really, it does come down to the people and the people side of it. And that was what led to pursuing my coaching certification and leaning more into that coaching and leadership development side of things as my primary focus rather than as a piece of that focus.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really good. Everybody gets into the coaching thing for different reasons. With yourself, was it something that you identified that you had picked up during your time that you were like, ooh, I would love to be able to share this. I see this shortcoming or whatever in people. Or was it one of those, oh my gosh, would have been cool to have known whatever before, or a combination of the both? Or
it's a great question. A little bit of both. Like I said, in most of my roles, I ended up actually doing a lot of coaching before I even knew what coaching was as a formal practice. And then when I hit a transition in 2021, leaving Nike, trying to figure out what was next in my life, my sister had been a certified coach for many years. And I had worked with a coach friend of hers a couple years before that, going through my own burnout and all of the things that lead to where I am today. But in that, what do I want to be when I grow up conversation, my sister and Jonathan, the coach, were like, obviously you're becoming a coach. He happens to also run a coach training school. He's like, the next cohort starts in 2 weeks. There's a spot with your name on it. If you insist, sure. So that was 4 years ago. And it's so amazing to see what a practice that is, and coaching as a regulated but also semi-unregulated industry. There's so many different takes on what that means. But really coaching, as I see it, as the art of helping anyone become the best version of themselves. Now, I focus primarily on leadership development coaching, executive coaching, a lot of the business and career side of things. And you can't coach any of that without getting to the whole human and where you are
Right.
as well. So I find a lot of times when I start working with clients, recently was working with a CEO that was really struggling with their prioritization and time management, as many of us do.
Yes.
And as we dig into that even more, understand that, yes, there are some practical, tactical things that we can do to really streamline, focus, prioritize, and gain traction. But when you get into it, if I'm going to just give you here's the checklist of how you should do. You need to get up at 5 a.m., all those things that, I'm sorry, you don't need to get up at 5 a.m. You don't need to get up at 5 a.m.
Good deal.
You need to find what are the time frames that you do your best deep work, you do your best teamwork, and let's map it out accordingly. As we started to do that, you start to get into where we all have this is a block. Okay, well, what's underneath that?
Yes.
And you can dig a little deeper to get to, okay, what is the actual root of that? How do we uncover? And then shape within, research-backed, practiced, driven frameworks and standards. What is that unique framework that works for you that, you can talk about even buying clothes off the rack, that you can find something that mostly fits, or it's directionally right, or this isn't my style at all. Let's pick a different style, but then let's tailor it. So it looks like a fully custom suit that was built for you and your life and your success.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, anytime you're intaking new information, especially with you coaching people, you want them to put it into practice as quickly as they can, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how things stick. And then, and customize it, right? We all have memorized templates or scripts or whatever, or procedures or different ways to improve and better ourselves. And once we make whatever the general is part of us, just like you said with the tailoring, then it really sinks in.
Yeah.
And it's so much more of an effect than just the one person that you're coaching, especially with you coaching executives and leaders. What and maybe you don't have the data yet, I'm kind of a nerd on stuff. But is there data that you've been able to see since you've helped these executives as far as their companies doing better or those kind of things? Has any of that jumped out to you? I'm like a numbers nerd, so I like.
Yeah, no, it's a great call out. And I think you look at really what you're getting to is what are the benefits of coaching. And the research shows on average, there's 8 to 10 times ROI on the investment spending coaching.
Awesome.
And I think it is looking at, depending on exactly what somebody is coming to me either for themselves as a leader or for their organization, it may be direct financial ROI. It may be we can see the team is measurably working better so that we're able to accomplish our goals faster, which then ultimately drive higher ROI. When we get into the data and research back side of things, one of my favorite things to start with any client is an assessment called the Harrison.
Okay.
So it's a lesser known assessment, but, love all of them, like StrengthsFinder, a lot of the, Myers-Briggs, ones that you dig into. But the Harrison is built on behavioral preferences and tendencies. And the idea that, all of us, you do something because you enjoy it, you therefore do it more, you become better at it, becomes a perpetuating cycle. Yeah. But this assessment runs through 175 different traits, preferences, and tendencies to get to what's called, or to get to really paradoxical strengths. The idea of a paradox being two things that seem completely disparate and separate, but somehow are simultaneously true. The Harrison has identified 12 paradoxical strengths that we can all map out on and really hone in on based on your preferences, strengths, and behaviors. Where are you as a leader or going to naturally show up the strongest, and what are some things that, based on research, tend to be pitfalls you may not see?
That's awesome.
One of my paradox strengths is in insightful logic. So looking at that blend of the analytical and the intuitive insights. So it's that really bringing the intuitive and the expertise to it to get at what is the heart of it to some of what we were just talking about. But using that and mapping out, and even, nobody likes to be told things they're not good at, or areas of opportunity or challenges or whatever we're talking. But with the Harrison, we can look at it and say, okay, based on this profile here, these are common tendencies we see in people who have a similar profile. How is that showing up in your life?
Yeah, that's
and let's dig into. And even it's one, I also love a lot of personality tests or types. are built more on the theory that your personality is somewhat fixed over time. So yes, we can work within it, but that's always going to be a thing. Because the Harrison is built on behavioral preferences and tendencies, it does change over time. And you can see, looking at it, taking it every few years, where you focus on will improve and grow and change. So it's so fun to work with leaders and teams over time to see, like, we've really focused in on and made an effort here, and we now have the data showing us. In addition to what we're seeing in our business, we now have data about us and our development that can really build on that strength.
That's cool. That's such a huge difference. And I love the fact that you're able to really dig in, you know, and soften the constructive criticism or learning experience or whatever, using that type of data and stuff. That's a really cool way to do it. I can see why you're very good at what you do, you know, taking that, and the underpinning is like loving what you do, right? You have the experience, you've already had the success corporate wise, and then being able to translate that and help other people become the leader that, you know, they're supposed to be, they're meant to be, and all that. That's really cool. Well, I appreciate your time today. This was great. I can't believe how fast it flew by.
I know. Like, we barely got started.
I know, right? What the heck? We'll have to do this again.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And I'll have to do it again. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you next week.